And we're recording. How are we getting on? How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad, Gerard.
This is attempt number 2, and also welcome everyone to the Awfully Irish podcast. Uh, yeah, the lads keep disconnecting because the power where they are isn't consistent. They keep getting power outs, so it's not the best. So,
Where are
myself and
they?
Jim, they're in a little village called Road,
Ah.
and Road is notoriously crazy anyway. But yeah, these lads don't have power at the moment, so here we go. Uh,
Ah.
me and Jim are having ourselves a hat competition.
That's why we look like this.
Yes, you
There's
got a
many
nice flag
hats.
behind you, by the way. I
I do
respect it.
thank you. Yes, look at just for you guys. I put up the Four Kingdoms.
Thank you very much.
Brought
Uh,
that out. I have one with the Guinness bird in the middle of the tricolor, but I thought that may be a little too stereotypical, so I left that one in the closet.
that's fair. That's fair.
That seemed a little.
That
I've
could
got
have
that
went
one
either
on
ways. No, that's not offensive at all.
I didn't want to be too
Yeah.
stereotypical. I somewhat have a Powers whiskey flag, but I do not know what I did with that. Because obviously that's the family brand.
The family name.
I met the brand ambassador, who was this awesome guy named Michael Carr. He came to New York City like 2 years ago, and he gave me like a little flag and a sent me a T-shirt, and
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
that was pretty cool. That was
Yeah. Actually, I looked it up real quick. Or no, I won't because no one can see my screen. Ah, can you see me? Because on my thing, I'm all frozen.
I can see you. Well,
Perfect.
yeah, I think you're frozen, but I can. I mean, you're there. I can hear you, which is the important part.
Yeah. Here I am. I took off all the hats because God, it was heavy and it was warm.
I was gonna say you must be sweating sweating your ass off with
Yeah.
all those hats on.
Sweating my balls off over
That's
there.
so. What are you? Is you were in an archery club?
I am in an archery club. I'm world champion archer
That's a
and a national champion here.
that that's amazing. When did that happen? When did you pick that up?
6 year ago.
In 6 years, you became a world champion archer.
Yes.
I'm glad I'm your friend. This is good. You're gonna stay on. If I need somebody to take it out, I'm gonna
No problem.
they'll never hear it coming.
Yeah, I was competing in a. I'll move on after this. I was competing in South Dakota in Yankton.
Oh my god,
Yeah,
that's amazing.
and that's where the
I
world
I
championship was last year.
I've lived in America all my well, except for a couple of years in Canada, and I have never been to South Dakota. So you have. I feel like most Americans have not been to South Dakota. So that's
It's
you're
worth
one up
going.
on. You've got it. Yeah, it's a long way. I mean, you've got one up on at least 300 million people. That's. Did you go
Fair
to?
enough.
Is that what else? How did you? I can't even
And
think of
right,
what the big.
can you see this? I'm wearing the Crazy Horse Memorial hat.
Oh yeah, I was about to ask you. Yeah, if that's what that was. Yeah, that's. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
that's awesome.
I've been actually kind of a bit worried at the moment because people want to tear down like a lot of stuff at the moment. They want to
Well,
get rid of Mount Rushmore at some point.
yeah. Well,
I'd say
that's
put more money into this because it's not finished
yeah.
yet.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah, Crazy Horse is okay because the actual Native Americans who did that. That's
Yeah,
their that was their thing.
a
Yeah, that's
Polish guy
but yeah,
involved
it's
in
like
Mount
pointing.
Rushmore uh, tried to start it because he was inspired by Native American people,
Right.
and he did it until he died. He did it nearly by hand, but then his family, since he's died, have done so little. I'm sure there's not much funding, but they haven't really done all that much. It would be amazing if it was finished in the next 5 years, but it
Yeah.
most likely won't be.
That's I've seen pictures of it. That thing is amazing. It's like you're out in the middle of nowhere basically, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's yeah, that is more the kind of thing. The thing with Mount Rushmore is it's sacred to the Black Hills are sacred to the that particular tribe, and
So it was
it's
very disrespectful to do that, I think.
yes, incredibly. It's really really incredibly disrespectful, and you don't learn that here when you're a kid. When you're in school, obviously it's an American icon. It's Mount Rushmore. Not until you get to college, you're in your early 20s. You know, you're probably not 20 years old before you get to like a sociology class or an American history class or a Western civilization class
Yeah.
where they're like, oh yeah, by the way, that thing that we like taught you was awesome and like super cool and like ultra American. Yeah, we're basically pissing on the original inhabitants of the
Yeah.
land. Yeah.
Yeah.
You should probably
so
know
hard.
that.
I think
it's
ideally, I think I was told this that that the Crazy Horse Memorial will be bigger than Mount Rushmore.
oh yeah, it's huge. I mean, the scale of it is unbelievable.
Okay,
I mean,
well,
the scale of it.
hope I'm right in that one, but like
I wouldn't be surprised.
I want to see that like come to fruition
Yeah,
because
that would be amazing.
the disrespect they're
Yeah,
making that.
yeah, it's pretty bad.
It was sacred to their culture. Like, pick any other mountain. You guys got so many.
I was gonna say, yeah, right. Like you could go
why,
anywhere.
Why in South Dakota? Like,
Yeah, that makes no sense.
No one's even there.
It's you're in the middle of nowhere. It's
Yeah.
it's really nuts. The whole thing is it, and it's funny because we're in this current moment where people are. I have a lot of family in the South, so we disagree on a lot of things. But down in Georgia, actually, where near the cemetery where most of my family is buried, there's Stone Mountain. Have you ever seen that?
Stone Mountain. No.
It's the Confederate Mount Rushmore. It's a giant granite block in a little bit south, I believe, of Atlanta. And it's got Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson, and Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy, carved into the side of it. And you can see it for miles.
I'll be completely honest. I'm not too brushed up in my American history, especially with the Civil War. I am Irish.
It's okay.
So what was the story with the Civil War?
Okay.
There?
Civil War. All right, here we go. All of my friends across America just like shuddered. Like, oh no, someone's gonna ask Jim about history. Oh. The Civil War was basically because this is contested to this day, but usually by Southern conservatives because they lost. There were slave states. There were states where slavery was legal, and there were states where it was not. And there was an agreement that every time states would come in, one free state would come in, one slave state would come in. And eventually this is there are thousands of books written about this. I can't give you like the
Yeah.
This is the Civil War, history minute. The South seceded from the North. Southern states got together and seceded from the North after Abraham Lincoln was elected because they were going to get rid of slavery, and they did not want that.
Did it have anything to do with I know Texas got independence from Mexico.
Yes.
And then the U.S. annexed it. Was anything involved there?
No.
No? Okay.
That's Texas. I mean, that's a fascinating story. And speaking of Ireland, there were a bunch of guys, they're revered in Mexican culture during the war for Texas independence. There were Texan, all these Irish people had moved to Texas for the free land, basically free land. And during the Mexican-American War, they switched sides because the Mexicans were Catholic and the Americans were mostly Protestants, and they were being treated like shit. So they switched sides to fight for the Mexicans, and they were known as the San Patricios.
Yeah, because most Irish are Catholic.
Exactly, and they're still revered in Mexican culture. No, that's a separate incident. That was about 15 to 20 years before the Civil War. Texas independence and then Texas annexation. They won their freedom from Mexico, and then they were an independent nation for a couple of years, and then they were brought into America, and then a couple of years after that they left again. They all got together, but it was basically about, the people will tell you, normally people who are conservatives will tell you it's about states' rights, but it all boils down to the state's right to have slaves. So, not fantastic, and we had a whole war about it. hundreds of thousands of people were killed. And it's our failure to, when the war ended and obviously the South lost, we sort of, instead of being harsh on them and outlawing the Confederate flag and imprisoning leaders and all the sort of things you would expect, the winning side to do.
Which normally happens, yeah.
Which normally happens. At the time, and the assassination of Abraham Lincoln plays a big role in this. At the time, the idea was, it was the thing called Reconstruction, where the South was rebuilt. The way that Lincoln's successor, a man named Jackson, kind of let it go down was that the old power structures basically reestablished themselves. So they weren't really punished. So they pretty much, something called they came up with this thing, we call it the lost cause. They sort of mythologized the war. So like, even though they lost, it wasn't their fault. It was the gallant, noble South versus the evil industrial North. And they just sort of re-entrenched themselves. And because we weren't hard on them, and we were because we allowed that re-entrenchment of.
But that's like part of the American thing of freedom. Like you keep the freedom to be able to talk about what happened on those days and the several stories.
Sure. I mean, it's. It
would be taking away freedom of speech if you got rid of that.
Yeah, it wouldn't be so much. I mean, I don't mean like whatever, like they can say whatever. It's not like outlawing what they said, but like, for example, in Europe, in most European countries, right, it's illegal to have a Nazi flag, right? In most European countries, it's illegal to have a Nazi flag, right? So in Germany,
UK, Germany, Central Europe, and I think Spain.
There's a couple of them where it's illegal. So because it's illegal, to as a stand-in for the swastika, they fly the flag, the Confederate battle flag, because they know what it stands. Like, that's their, workaround. Yeah. So we didn't have after the Second World War, there was a process called denazification, where they removed Nazi leaders from positions of power and sort of, I don't want to say re-educated, but we're like, this was bad. This was not a good thing. We have to, this wasn't great. We should learn from this. That we never deconfederatized America. That never happened. So the old, rather than see the error of their ways, I guess you could say in a way, it's sort of they doubled down, tripled down, quadrupled down. So every generation we have to contend with the ghost of the war. So the civil rights era in the 50s and 60s was played out along the same lines, and every time African Americans get rights or are elevated in society or given measures of equality, Confederate symbology and Confederate symbolism and Confederate flags, Confederate monuments. Most of the monuments in this country dedicated to the Confederacy were built way after the war was over. The war ended in 1865. These things were built and put up in the 20s and the 30s.
Do you mind if I ask you something?
Sure.
How do you feel about them being taken down?
Oh, they should all be taken down.
You think they should all be taken down?
If they're not on a battlefield, so I've been to almost all the Civil War battlefields. Gettysburg, which is the big one, I've been there 7-8 times. I think there's only like a small handful, maybe 4 or 5, that I haven't been to. The vast, overwhelming majority of Confederate monuments were put up 30, 40 years after the war ended and have nothing to do with the war. It was just about, they were made by a company. There was a metalworking firm, actually in Connecticut, which is funny. And they just stamped out identical forms of statues. That's why they come down so easily. And there's a couple of cases where they accidentally sent Union, so the two sides were the Confederacy and the Union. There's like at least 14 Union soldiers. They accidentally sent the wrong style
Yeah.
two places in the South, and they just left them up. So like these aren't actual historical monuments at all. They're not markers of anything.
Do you not think that their purpose would change over time?
No, you can't.
Like it might have meant something then, but do you think now it means something different? Like, should they be left up as a reminder?
I think in a majority of cases, an overwhelming majority, having been all through the South for most of my life, in 99% of cases, the only reason these things are up and have been left up, and some of the wording on these things is beyond belief, it is just a reminder. It's just a reinforcement of white supremacy. It has nothing to do with the war. People don't, it's not like anyone, you can't, you could stop people on the street and ask them what the Civil War was, but they don't know. It's not, these monuments are just there to reinforce their supremacy over, the others, basically. So they're not serving any kind of historical purpose. And I've heard people say like, oh, what if we put up a sign like that, put it in context, blah, blah, blah. But no one's going to read that sign. Like that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's just not. So taking down statues, we started America by taking down a statue. The first day, there used to be, if you ever go to New York City, right by Wall Street, there's a little pocket park. It's right there called Bowling.
There you go. Again, you got
a statue of King George. That's okay. There used to right on Wall Street, right down at the end there. There's a little pocket park. It's called Bowling Green. The Bowling Green used to be much bigger, but now it's just this small little park. And in it, there used to be a giant statue of King George III. Yeah. And on the day that independence was announced, big crowd of New Yorkers went down there with ropes and whatever else they got their hands on, and they tore the statue down.
We did the same when we got independence.
Yeah, I'm sure. Right, exactly.
Not guys going out with ropes. It was the government decided.
I mean, as they should. But when you go to like, there's a museum of the American Revolution in Philadelphia, and when you walk in, the very first thing you see when you walk in is a mannequin standing in front of a replica of this monument of King George III, handing you a rope. So like, tearing down statues of oppressors is pretty much what we do as Americans. So like this, it's more of correcting a mistake. Like I will say some of them, I could see if you took them to museums, if you took them down and then you moved them into a museum, I could see that.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of them, they were put up in the 1920s when black soldiers were returning from the First World War and were starting to receive some small measure of equality. So there was just this rash of all of a sudden, 40 years after the war ended, we're putting up Confederate monuments. Like, I don't think that has anything to do with the war there, boys.
Yeah.
I
think that's supposed to be like a reminder of like, know your place kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, and that's really what the vast majority of those monuments are. It's a silent marker of, know your place, which is just, that's not really American. That's not what we.
That's not very American at all.
No, it's not really what we're supposed to be about. I mean, unfortunately, it is American, but it's not what we're supposed to be about, right? That's supposed to be a little bit different. But to go back to the very beginning of the station, in Stone Mountain, Georgia, there's a giant. Speaking of disrespectful, there's a giant granite, just huge, block of granite called Stone Mountain, and it's got these 3 Confederates carved into the side of it. And it's just like every time I see it, it's like that's not great. And you can see it for miles. It's huge. You're driving around, you get out south of Atlanta, you're like, what is that? Oh, all right. That's kind of sucks.
And if you had your way about it, would you want that taken down, like, or?
Yeah, I go back and forth about it. Like, it's the same guy that did my Rushmore. It was the first thing he did. It's before he did my Rushmore, he did this.
But that doesn't mean all that
No, it
much.
doesn't.
He
No,
also
it
did
doesn't.
Crazy Horse Memorial, so he's not.
Yeah, right.
And he was Polish.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's the other thing, right? The guy's Polish.
So,
Right, exactly. A lot of it has to do with like Stone Mountain is also like the home of the KKK. Like when the KKK got started, they started at Stone Mountain. They still have big rallies at Stone Mountain. Like, I would probably erase it. Like, I would probably, recarve it to be people that didn't fight against us. Maybe maybe put up like other people from Georgia who don't suck. Like Georgia has a lot. Jimmy Carter. Georgia has contributed a lot to like American culture that does not involve enslaving other people. I mean, they have other people they could honor. So maybe recarve it so it's not so offensive.
Well, just my opinion from the outside. I'm not in depth with your history, so my opinion means basically nothing. I think for the purposes of history, it should stay there. The kind of thing 100 years from now, you could just look at it to say how stupid it was, or like it's a good history lesson in my opinion. Morally, it's not a good lesson.
I can see that. I can see that argument. I mean, and there are people here who agree with you that we should leave them up and put them in context. Put up a sign, explaining what this is about.
That would be pretty smart.
Yeah, I mean that. My only argument with that is like, as a big history guy, is I don't really know if anybody would ever read the sign.
If you put the sign beside it, like you read it.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I mean, I stop at every monument I see, and that's I would hope, but I think another thing, if you're gonna do that, and again, I can see that argument. If you're gonna do that, then you have to also put up, if we're gonna leave these monuments up, then we have to start putting up monuments to, people who don't suck. Like, let's put next to these monuments, like, so next to every Confederate monument, let's put up, a black civil rights leader or something like that. Like, balance it out. There's got to be some kind of, balance, redress in there.
Or the states could stop maintenance on those things to show they've abandoned those ideas.
Well, that would also be an idea. I mean, in a lot of
I'm not an expert in your history, so
no.
I don't want to be speaking.
No, I understand. You're making the same. It's okay. You're making the same argument that a lot of people are making. It's not an invalid argument. It has sense to it. But yeah, it's not going to end anytime soon.
Yeah,
it's been going on. I'm 40 now. This has been going on since I was a kid, 7, 8. I think the first time I saw a protest against a Civil War, a statue like that, I was probably 7 or 8 years old. So it's not. There's 330 million people that live here. There's a lot of opinions. It's not going to stop. But I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, you guys had that whole kerfluffle over honoring the recently the Royal Ulster Constabulary. And there was, I mean, people, there's how you're gonna commemorate 1916. There were all sorts of arguments in that. You guys have sort of a similar thing. You have a polarizing. You have an event in your history that polarizes people on both sides.
Like, we have to be super respectful to the UK because they're our biggest trade partner. But other than that, I don't think we would be as friendly. We had years and years of, I'm sure, like, I don't know why you feel like really dodgy talking about it, but like, it's obviously not anyone in Britain at the moment. It's people who came before who had more primitive ideas.
Right.
When they came to Ireland, like, you couldn't speak Irish. Like, you didn't own your kids. You had no possession over your own children. You had to convert once the Reformation happened.
Right.
and blah blah blah. It was a hard time being Irish at the time. Is that a
Right.
new hat? Yeah.
I had to turn the AC off so you could hear me. So I need to find one that I can sweat into. No, and then you have guys like Charles Stewart Parnell and the Land League and all that stuff. Yeah,
But
it's not the current British.
yeah, exactly. Well, arguably up north, there's still a lot of conflict about it. Like a large part of their culture, which is yeah, a large part of their culture is disrespecting our culture, like burning Irish flags at different ceremonies.
Yeah,
Uh,
July 12th.
yeah, oh, that's the exact one. And I don't know how we tolerate that down here. Like we got to be so friendly to these guys and shit they did.
Yeah, it's the same. Really, it's the
It
same
makes
sort of thing.
makes me think a lot about like the idea of, and it's very different now than what it was, of like Europeans or white people having a certain privilege. A lot of Europe was enslaved by other Europeans, or not enslaved, like really treated badly.
Yeah, oppressed by
Like
other. Yeah,
we had some really dodgy shit happen here. Like
yeah,
we had a population of 8 million, then they starved us, and now we're still recovering.
right.
We're only
And most
5 million
people,
now.
yeah, there's something here. It's something like 75 million Americans are have some kind of Irish history to them. Like there's way more Irish people outside Ireland than actually in the
Yeah,
nation
our
itself.
biggest export is our people.
Right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Flight of the Wild Geese. It's you're right.
But anyway, we're not political experts. We're not blah blah blah.
No, we're
What we
I,
are is we're
this.
podcasters.
I feel like we should be sitting in a pub somewhere talking about this. This is like we're at like the end of the pub and everyone's like, "Oh no, they're talking about politics. Everybody back up!" Like
Yeah,
everybody against the wall.
everyone just pulls in closer as a
Yeah,
fresh one, some popcorn.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
What we are is we're podcasters. So tell us again. You know, we tried it already, but it crashed. So tell us again about your podcast, what you do, and why you started it, if you don't mind.
No problem. That's why I'm here. So yeah, my name is Joe Powers, and I do a Friday night radio show on the internet, which I guess isn't the radio, but close enough. It's called the Friday Night Music Party. JimmyStagger.caster.fm. And I started doing it. I have a friend named Tyler Sorensen who does a show in New York called Different Head at Different Head on Twitter, where he's done hundreds of shows at this point now, but he basically, like, my favorite style of music is like late 70s, early 80s, like punk rock, new wave, underground stuff from that era, and he does the same sort of thing. And I went on his show a bunch of times, 4 or 5 times, and I'd always wanted to do a show of my own, but I never had time. It was always back of my mind sort of thing. And then when I moved out of New York last year, I had all kinds of time on my hands. So I asked people, like, how I'm not technically savvy. I'm not good with computers.
Yeah.
So it took me. There's a lot of trial and error involved. But I finally figured out how to do. I figured out how to do it for free because I'm not paying for anything because I'm cheap. But that's
Oh, I'm the same. We're all the same in the podcast.
yeah. I don't want to pay for anything. So there's different, like, I use there's a shout, you have to have your own server. So Caster, you can get a free Shoutcast server and stuff like that. But I try to bring back like the style of radio that I grew up with in the 90s. Like in America we call it college radio. But like I said, we talked about this before, but just for the people who weren't there, when you travel around America, there were different styles of radio, and the accents would change, and it would be different. You knew where you were. You knew you weren't like in your own town because it was different. So now it's all totally homogenous, and you could be in Detroit, you could be in San Francisco, you could be in Houston, Texas. The radio is all basically the same. It doesn't matter. So I wanted to try to bring back some of that older aesthetic, I guess is the word.
Yeah. And so far, so good, right?
So far, so good. I mean, I'm amazed by the reaction. I get a lot of. I've had a lot of people there's people in Australia who listen to me. There's people in Ireland who listen to me. There's people in Britain who listen to me. A lot of people in Canada. I'm big in Western Canada for some reason.
It's good.
It's amazing. I mean, I'm just this random guy sitting in a room in suburban Massachusetts. Like, it's not. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm like a. It's a decent. I'm not. It's not a cheap tablet, but it's not expensive. A lot of equipment, and I bring up vintage ads. I'll have to send you the St. Patrick's Day one I did. I brought out a bunch of Irish ads from like the 80s and the 90s for like different RTE shows and things like that.
RTE stands for Radio Television Era. EIRE for the era. So what was I gonna say?
Good question.
What was I gonna say? Give me a second.
It's in there somewhere.
I'm looking around for it now. Hold on.
Hold on.
What's the response to your podcast so far? People loving it?
I gotta say, people really seem to like it. Older people, I think, like it because it reminds them of like what I'm trying to do. And then younger people, because I play a lot of, I try to have themes.
Yeah.
I don't always have a theme, but maybe 70% of the time I have a theme. Last week was the 60s. This week is going to be 60s part 2, but I've done, I do holidays, Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, Christmas, Halloween. My birthday's coming up next month, so that'll be, I won't take any requests for that one, but I take requests. I play funny noises in between, in between the song, in between the ads, the vintage ads. I'll, sirens and alarms and stuff like that. But yeah, younger people, I think, get into it because I play different music, and I'll if they have a request, I'll play it. And people really just like, I think, hearing, like if you requested something. I mean, Mr. Daly over here is apparently a big fan of Avenged Sevenfold. So if he was to, be like, Jim, I wanna play some Avenged Sevenfold, and I was like, all right, this is gonna go out to Dara in Ireland. Here we go, Avenged Sevenfold. Chugga 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 chugga. Like, people really like that happening. They like hearing their name. They like hearing, what they, people really like that, and that really helps, I think, connect me to the audience. Then I learn, and you pick people up that way. Like, people randomly who didn't listen to the show before, but I would put out a tweet like, hey, if you want to play something. People started listening to the show because I played the requests, and I will literally play anything. I don't care. I won't play Billy Joel because I hate him, but other than that, I will play anything, any other kind of music you want.
Does it take a lot of time to get this stuff sorted? Like, to get ready to go?
It takes about 3 or 4 hours to put it all together. Because I have to find the ads. So if there's a theme, so like I said, this week is the 60s. I'm trying to find ads from the 60s, cut them up, put them all, sequence everything together. And then the blocks all have their own, like, there's like mini themes. So like in the 60s, there were a lot of novelty hits, one-off joke songs. So there's a novelty block. There's a psychedelic block. There's a 60s R&B block. There's a, so all the ads have to be tailored to they don't have to be, but I like them to be, like, tailored to what their, what the block was. So, or like when I did the St. Patrick's Day show, I tried to tailor the ads to like where the band was from. So if the band is from Fermanagh, then the ad's going to be from there too. If the band was from Cork, then the ad's going to be from Cork. Like, I tried to, and that takes, all told, it's in between 3 or 4 hours to put together. And I'm a terrible procrastinator, so I usually put it off till Thursday nights. But like 2 weeks ago, I totally forgot, and it was like Friday morning, and I was literally still piecing it together seconds before, people start messaging me like, all right, man, here we go, like, let's do it. And I'm like, oh shit, like, god damn it, like, slamming the buttons, like, son of a bitch.
How many times a week, or how often do you upload? Or do you?
I do the show. It's every Friday, unless it's been 99%. I've been doing it for about 1.5 years now. I think I've only missed like 5 Fridays in that time.
Not too bad.
birthdays or family. Usually something in my family. I got a big family, so that's really the only thing that's stopped it. It's 99% of the Fridays, I'm gonna say. So I've only missed a handful, and then I try to get it up middle of the next day, Sunday, middle of the day. I'll put it up on Mixcloud, but I get most of the listeners who are actually listening live because it's a 3.5-hour show. So Mixcloud is like I don't know too many people that are gonna sit for 3 hours, like listen to the whole thing. So on Mixcloud, I get like 30 or 40 plays is pretty awesome. But I'm much more interested in people listening to it like live than I am like the recordings.
Yeah, because you get instant feedback, and that's going back to what we were talking about earlier. That people have like lesser attention span. Like it's harder to wait until you get all the comments than it is to just see them live. You know.
Right. I'm so sorry.
We're the same. Like when we have a live stream.
Me and Thomas are back.
I'm so sorry.
You're not sorry.
Apologize.
Oh, you're right. I don't fucking care.
Our entire village, their power got cut off. So me and Thomas kind of shook for a bit.
We'll forgive them, Jim, won't we?
I forgive you already. It's okay. I understand.
No. I deserve to be punished.
I used to live in the woods, deep in the woods of Maine, and anytime the wind blew, I would lose my power. So I understand.
Wait, you lived in Maine?
I lived in Maine. I lived in Kennebunkport.
Deep in the woods of Maine. That sounds a bit
deep in the woods of Maine, man.
Sounds like a documentary.
Let me tell you, the woman who lived next to me, if you're a Stephen King fan, there was a woman who lived, and I mean, she was my neighbor, but this being Maine, that meant she lived about 5 football fields away from me. She had a big black mailbox that said "Misery" on it.
Oh, lovely.
Oh yeah. So one night, I'm talking to my landlord, and he was like, "Oh, have you seen her truck yet?" I'm like, "No, I haven't seen the truck yet." He's like, "Oh, you will." I go, "Okay, all right." So one night, it's coming home from work, dark. Like you've never, well, maybe you have if you live in a small village in Ireland. There's not a lot of places in America that are like on the East Coast anyway, where it gets dark like it does in Maine. Like it is fucking dark.
Yeah.
Like it's like close your eyes dark. So I'm coming home in this truck, like huge black pickup truck, like 80s pickup truck, like shoots past me, cuts in front of me on like a tiny road, like on a tiny, backcountry road. Main license plate, Misery. I'm like, oh no. Oh my God, it's her. So I caught up to her because I had to see her. I'd never seen her. I caught up to her. I swear to you, she had white hair, like a huge white mane, basically. And in the passenger seat was a black dog that looked like a fucking bear. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. You can look this up. She pays the town of Kennebunkport, I think it's like $2,000 a year. So her driveway is classified as a road. So you can look this up. It's on the map. Road to Misery, Kennebunkport, Maine. She lives at 27 Road to Misery, Kennebunkport, Maine. That is a real thing.
Insane.
Unbelievable. People take that. People love Stephen King in Maine. They love him a lot.
Obviously, he has to be this state hero.
Oh, he is.
We talked about him yesterday.
We were talking about him yesterday. He's pretty fucked up, to be honest. Like
the more you think about him, he's a pretty fucked up guy.
You have to see his house. Have
you seen it?
Oh yeah, I've been there. You have to. First of all, the people that hang out outside his house, they should be like low jacked so we can keep track of them all the time. Like these are not people that should be like freely roaming the country. Like we should literally microchip these people because they're not right in the head. But yeah, it's as crazy as you think it is. Google what his house looks like. It's pretty bananas.
Definitely will. Like I know, like all of the stories are set in Maine. I know he's from. Is it Bangor?
Yeah. You say in Maine you say Bangor. You don't say Bangor. That's. There's
a place called Bangor in Northern Ireland, isn't there?
I think there is. Yeah.
It is. And I think
there's
a lot of places in Maine. There's a Belfast, Maine. There's a lot of places in Maine that are named after places in Ireland because just who settled it. Maine is kind of split between like French people who are descended from the French. In Canada, they're called French Canadians, but in America, they're called Acadians. There's an Acadian National Park. Maine used to be part of what the French owned. So you have there's a lot of people up there who are French, but then there's a ton of people up there who are Irish. So there's
we hear a lot about the Irish people and the Latino people in America. We never hear about the French people. Like, do people still speak French?
Yeah. Oh,
and
there's
still embrace like French culture.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. There's a town in Maine right by Kennebunkport called Biddeford, and they have a huge French festival every year called La Kermesse, and it is bonkers. And people come down from Quebec, which is the center of French North America, basically, obviously. So all of like the upper right-hand corner used to be New France, and then after the French and Indian War, obviously the British took over, and they ejected all the French, and that's how they got to New Orleans. So that's why New Orleans is so French. The Cajuns. So all the Cajuns are descended from Maine French people. Oh. So it's funny because you'll be driving around up there, especially in the sort of like rural communities in central Maine, which is like going back in time. That's like going back to like 1983. The NFL team that we root for here is the Patriots. They represent the region. They don't just represent one state. It's the New England Patriots. So they represent 6 states. So 99% of people here root for the Patriots. But when you're in these like French areas, they all root for the New Orleans Saints. Because of that connection. You'll see like random Saint stickers. You're like, wait a minute. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Oh, I get it. Okay. Yeah. All right. I see. Because they root for all our other teams, just not the Patriots. They root for the Saints. So there is an extant French community, and obviously down the center of it in America is New Orleans, and then in Canada you have Quebec, but in Maine, Western Massachusetts, parts of Vermont, New Hampshire, yeah, they're out there. It's a real thing.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I'd forgotten that New Orleans had such like kind of big French history, but now that I'm
just
remember
bring up about the language. I know there's like a New Orleans dialect of French. There used to be a dialect of Irish in the States. There's a community that still spoke Irish, but eventually it went away.
You're close. It was in Canada. In Newfoundland. They used to speak Irish, Newfoundland Irish, and like that's up. It's almost in America. It's on the east coast of Canada, and they call that the Maritimes. So if you keep like there culturally, even though we're in 2 different countries, like New England, which is the upper right hand corner of the country. Not sure if you got this, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, and Maine. That's Vermont. That's New England. If you go north, then you get up into Newfoundland and Nova Scotia. That's the Maritimes, and that's their culture and our culture is pretty similar. And there's Newfoundland. There's like a ton of Irish people, and right up until I think the 1930s, late 30s, I think even maybe early 40s, they had their own dialect of Irish. And it's something like 85% of the people of Newfoundland are Irish descent. That's where my family came into North America. And they have there's like a well, I don't know how much of it is a joke. It's like a quasi joke independence movement, the Republic of Newfoundland, and they have a flag that's like the Irish flag, but they replaced the orange part with a pink stripe. And that's the Newfoundland tricolor. And when you see people like who wave that's like they want to separate from Canada and be their own country.
Do you speak any Irish at all?
I know a couple of phrases. My great grandmother was pretty fluent, and we used to think that she spoke Klingon because we didn't know what it was when we were kids, and it doesn't sound like English.
So you have your Kuppelfuckle.
Yeah. I know. I know a couple of phrases. Yeah, I really, I would love to sit down one day and learn it, but I don't. I'm not fluent, unfortunately. I wish I was.
Yeah, it's a nice language, and not many people speak it. So when you go abroad and you're Irish and you can speak with someone else, it's kind of fun.
Oh, I can imagine.
It's like a secret language because
really, yeah.
No one is ever going to figure out what you're talking about.
No one's going to know what you're saying.
Like, you go to Spain, there's not one Spanish person who's probably learned Irish.
When you're in, like, where I was in New York, I lived in New York City for 7 years, and I was in Queens. There's a section of Queens called Woodside, and Woodside is entirely Irish people. And I mean, you guys Irish. They're all here on visas. Some of them are not here on visas, but they're here anyway. And what, like, that's where you spend St. Patrick's Day. Like, you go to Woodside, and you know that you're in a good pub in Woodside when, like, the amount of English being spoken and the amount of Irish being spoken is about equal. That's where you're like, okay, this is where we're gonna stay. Like, this is the bar we're gonna hang out in.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like when you're on like a build. If you go past like a building site in Queens, something like that, like you'll hear guys speaking Irish like to each other. It's like a secret when they don't want the other like they don't want the Yanks to know what they're saying. They slip into the Irish.
I mean, that's one reason I'd love to be fluent. I'm not fluent at all. Like, you know, I a few things from school or whatever, but like I don't think I could hold a full-on conversation. The only time I was able to do that was for my oral, and my examiner was like so nice to me. Like people were, I swear to God, people were coming out of that exam before me. I think I think I was like 5th, right? And I think the 4 people that came out of me before were talking about either how hard it was or they were crying. And I was
Jesus.
I was like my friend was right before me, and she came out and she sat beside me and she's like, I think I messed it up. And I was just like, oh, fuck. Like, and I just walked in, and he was just like, oh, yeah, like, he was asking me the basic things. And then I think he asked me, he was just like, oh, yeah, if you could go to any concert, what would it be? And I was like, all right, throw on a bit of the tense at me. And I was like, oh, right, I think I have it. And I, like, said it. And he was like, all right, yeah, grand. I was like, oh. I walked out, and everyone else was just like, oh, this guy's a dick. He's asking us all these hard questions.
How much do you have to know, like, to graduate from school?
Well, like, there's 2 parts of there's 3 parts of the exam. There's the oral, then there's the listening, and then there's the actual, like, writing. And so the oral is literally, like, there's an examiner, and you have to hold a conversation with the examiner. Whatever question he asks you, you have to answer in Irish and all that. And then for the listening comprehensions, it's like a few pieces of paper with questions on it, and then they play kind of like these segments. So it could be like a news article or something like that, and you have to answer the questions that are on the paper. And then for the written part, it's all like the first 3 parts are reading comprehensions, and then there's like journals and stuff like that, and then essays.
How old are you when you do this? Oh,
no. The first time you do it, like, now I know in some schools they do orals in junior cert, which is like 15, 16. But we didn't do that. So when we did it, I was 17 when I did mine.
I grew up in New York, and you have to learn a foreign language, but you don't start till you're in high school already. So you're like 13, 14 by the time you start.
Oh wow.
Not.
You learn Irish. You learn Irish from day one.
Yeah, but like still.
From the first day you walk into school.
I'm pretty sure I'm better at speaking French than I am speaking Irish, just because there's so many different.
I think I'm better at writing French than I am writing Irish, but I think I'm better at speaking Irish than I am speaking French.
I can read Irish perfectly.
I changed my Alexis language earlier to French, and I tried to speak French to it. And it was just like...
It broke.
No, it literally was like... the first 2 times it was like... I tried to ask what time it was. And...
didn't go so well.
The first 2 times it was like... It was like pretty much said, I don't understand. I don't know what that is in French. I'm not going to say it completely. But then I looked it up. And it was like Keller Tombil or something. No, it was Keller Ale. and then it was just like.
It sounded like a spell.
Yeah, no, it was like literally, and then it said the time, and I was like, still got it. Even though I had to look it up, I was just like, I got it. And I understood the time. I was like,
I don't remember any of my high school French. That I took my high school French teacher was this really like very attractive young woman, and she was an Air France stewardess, and that's how she like learned the language. And then she just decided she didn't want to be a stewardess anymore, so she became a French teacher. And I don't think anybody in my class, it was like probably most kids in my school took Spanish. So there were like 3 different Spanish classes. There was literally no more room to take Spanish. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to take the closest thing, I guess. Took French. And there were like 10 guys in this room. None of us were paying attention. We were 14 years old. We didn't pay attention to a damn word this woman said. Like, not at all. I couldn't tell you a single thing. Like,
our French teacher was pretty good. We had one bad French teacher throughout school, me and Dara.
Man, bad is a god.
Can't say it.
We're not going to say her name. We're not going to say her name.
I'm not going to say the name, but bad is a goddamn understatement.
Dara, remember you were like late, like.
Oh my god! All right, are you ready for this story? I'm about to tell this story. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm getting fired up. Hold on. I actually think I might need to plug in my laptop before I tell the story. I need to plug in my laptop before I tell the story.
Well, yeah, you gotta hurry before the power goes out, man. Let's go.
He's got a point.
Hey, shut up. No. It ain't fun, man. It kept going and coming back and going and coming back though. Yeah, so like I went into the sitting room and someone was trying to heat up food.
This story? All right, you ready for this? You fucking ready? Okay, here we go.
Lay it on me, Daly.
My chair just broke again, but I don't care. Anyway, so pretty much what happened, right? So it was like me and my friend, and we'd sit right beside each other. And I'm gonna call the friend Jimmy. It's not his real name, but I'm gonna call him Jimmy. Okay.
Kick his ass, Jimmy.
Names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So me and Jimmy, we'd like to, we fucked around in class. Like we would just like make jokes to each other and laugh and shit. And this teacher was having none of our stuff. And there'd be times where I'd forget like my copy or whatever. Like I'd leave it in my locker, and she'd be like, "Where's your copy?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I'm after leaving it in my locker. Can I go out and get it?" "No, journal." And I'd be like, "Oh, okay." Give her the journal. Then like maybe 3 days later, I'm like, "Oh, where's your copy?" "Oh, it's in my bag." Journal. I'm like, "Okay." And then I think it happened the 3rd time, and then she asked me to stay after class, and I was like, "Oh, well, what is it now?" And she just goes, "Dara, are you having problems at home?" And I was like, "What the fuck?"
Oh no!
I was like, the look of disgust that I gave her. I was like, "No."
Epic.
I was like, "No."
Epic.
And she's like, "If you are having problems at home, you can talk to me." And I was like, "I'm fine."
Epic.
And then she goes, "All right, well, after this, I want us to have a clean slate." And I was like, "Okay."
Wild.
I can live with that. I can throw off all the bullshit that you've given me. And then
so he came in the next day without the copy.
No. No, so much worse. So this was before break. I go out for break, right? She's already held me back, so I missed out on like 5 minutes of break time. Go out, have my food. Bell rings. It's me, Jimmy, and then an Indian guy that was in our class, okay? And
you just called him Corey, man.
Corey, right? Call him Corey, right?
He has a name, Dara.
I know he does. He's 10 feet in front of us, okay? He's 10 feet in front of us. He walks in, bell rings. We walk in 3 seconds later. Teacher goes, "Right, boys, journals." And I said, oh, Jesus. All right.
Jimmy, kick his ass,
Jimmy. Me and Jimmy look at each other and we just go, "Okay." And I was just like, I swear to God, for the rest of the class, I just sat back in my chair and I was like, clean slate my ass. Like,
yeah, that's not exactly.
I swear to God, he walked in. He walked in, said nothing to Corey, but to me and Jimmy, just goes, "All right, boys, journals." And I was like, this is bullshit. It's complete bullshit. And then she left for a bit, and I was telling that story to my brother, and his girlfriend was with him, and she goes, "Oh yeah, I had her as well for that year. She almost made our entire class fail the oral exam. She was giving them all the wrong information, and then the teacher that she was replacing came back and saved their asses."
That's amazing.
And somehow the other one came back and is now a teacher there.
There's so many kids. I don't understand how people do that. I went to school. I'm like, you guys know this now, but I'm originally from Massachusetts, but I grew up on Long Island in New York.
Yeah.
And a very small town. There were maybe like 400 kids in my whole school. There were like 100 kids. My class was like 120 some odd kids. There's something like 15 kids from my class that teach in that high school now. I don't know how they do that. Like, what do you say to the teachers that we grew up with? Like, do you call them by their first names? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, you fucking do.
It's so weird.
No, even in our school, they call each other by their, like, Mr. Blank, Mrs. Blank.
Yeah. Like, it's so weird. I can't imagine, like, I couldn't wait to get out of there. So I can't imagine, like, going there every day.
In the staff room, like,
I feel like it's like a Stockholm syndrome thing.
No, I feel like
it is.
I feel like in the staff room they probably use each other's first names. But
sure, no, yeah, of course they do. Of course.
Well, like they'll walk in and be like, "Oh yeah, how you miss whatever."
Well, we all know their names.
Mister. Yeah,
like
we know all their names.
I can't imagine, like, growing up in a small town like I did, and then everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
Literally, like, anything that happened in the town, you knew about, and this is pre-internet. Like, you knew about it within an hour of it happening, right? So you grow up and you go to school and these people have known you since you were a small child, and now you work with them. Like, that's so weird to me. Like, that's just so odd. Like, why would you do that? There's other places you could be a teacher. Go somewhere else. Like, it's okay. The big thing that happened in our high school, so we had a big, like, musical theater that was huge in my school, and there was this one girl in my class who was like, they just decided that she was God's gift to the world, and they made up awards to give her and like all this stuff. Really stuck up, you can just imagine. So everybody was pretty sick of her by the time we were seniors. And they were going to do this. She got the starring role, of course. They were putting on this big production of The Sound of Music. Now, the school I went to, we did not have this. Well, we call them public schools. I know in Britain that means a private school, but this literally means a public school. We did not have a lot of money. So they took the money that they did have, and they brought, like, professional musicians in from New York City. They made, like, this was a big, big production.
Yeah.
So the night of the show, my brother was in it. He was a theater guy. I had just dropped him off. It was a little bit before graduation, maybe 2 or 3 weeks before. This was the big send-off night. Somebody plants an incendiary bomb in the AV room over the crowd, and it exploded, and it burned like hundreds of thousands of dollars of audiovisual equipment. Like, it almost burned the school down. Right? So no, it was crazy. And this is, let me tell you,
school shooter-esque thing, or was it?
No. I think there's. Well, I think it was a prank that got out of control. This is my theory anyway. Somebody wanted to mess with this girl's big, because we just, for weeks, it was like, oh, The Sound of Music. It's going to be, insert person's name. It's going to be their big send-off, and somebody just got so sick of her that they did this, right? So, and nothing ever happened in this town. Like, nothing ever happened, right? So this was shocking beyond all comprehension, right?
Yeah.
So the police put up a $5,000 reward. Her family put up a $5,000 reward, and then the school put up a $5,000 reward. There's a lot of money. Right?
Schools who do not have any funding were
exactly
$5,000.
Well, $5,000 up. So right, there's 15 grand on the table.
Never have warm water, and they can do that.
Yeah, there's 15 grand on the table if you're gonna drop a dime on whoever did this. So we're like, 2 hours from now, like the next day in school, everybody was like, oh yeah, this is gonna last for like an hour. No one ever was caught. as far as I know, the money is still out there. No, and this was over 20 years ago. No one ever dropped a dime on whoever did it. I know, right? Yeah, no. Let me tell you. They thought it was me because they did. Because I was like because we had moved in from Boston, so like me and my brother were like the outsiders. So
it would have been easy to blame it on you guys then.
Yeah. So like they called down there. They had about 10 or 15 people they thought were good for it. So I had I was in the high school band. I had issues with the band band teacher who was the head of this department. So they thought I was trying to get back at him. So it was like me, the principal, the vice principal, a cop. I think the school's lawyer was there. So I walked in and and the band teacher, I won't mention his name, but he didn't like me either. So I sit down and he's like, "You know what you did?" I'm like, "No, what are you talking about? I have no idea. It wasn't me." So it was really funny. Even to this day, I have my own suspicions on who it was, but anytime I talk to somebody I went to high school with, within 5 minutes, that's where the conversation goes. Because no one knows. They never caught the person. There was never any resolution to it. It's insane event.
I'm not going to say something similar happened, but I believe someone tried to burn down the home ec room at some point, right?
Yes.
Well, that would be the room that would happen in, right?
No, but I think someone broke into the home ec room during the night and tried to burn it down.
During summer.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, I thought you meant there was an accident in the class.
I know about that. I know the guy who did it. I'm not going to say his name. He's in prison at the moment.
Jesus.
He owed money to some lads. Drug stuff. Not good. And he owed money to these people, and he knew he was going to get his head smashed in. And he knew it would be better for him to go to prison than to deal with these lads.
Jesus Christ.
So he went around the town on a rampage, and the school was one of the places he got to.
Your town was a lot more interesting than my town.
Yeah.
Many more interesting things.
Not the same
Many more interesting things occur in this town.
Not the same thing with the what?
Not the same lad as McGreal's, was it?
I wouldn't know. I don't know what happened with McGreal's.
McGreal's, someone came down through the roof and burned it down during the night as well.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Jesus Christ.
Shit happens, man. Shit happens in the town.
Yeah, man. No, listen.
I think 2 months ago, the most recent thing that happened is someone was attacked with a machete and got 2 of their fingers cut off.
3 fingers.
3
All they got is this.
Yeah, and did you see? Yeah, and he made a post on Facebook after that about it with his fucking mangled hand. He was just like, "Fuck this person, they did it." I was just like,
"Okay,
holy shit."
A few years back, when I was about 10 or 11, a lad went up to town, and our town's a walking distance, about 3 kilometers long. Yeah. And fair play to him, for running 3 kilometers. But he ran 3 kilometers with a can of spray paint in the hand and got every single shop door.
That.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Every bit of window, one straight line from beginning of the town to the end of the town. Black spray paint.
That's actually, he should get an award. That's actually impressive.
The thing is, the best thing about that is wherever, did he start from Tesco end or did he start from Sweeney's end?
Well, I don't know.
Well, whichever end he started, he definitely ran past the guards. At some point, he ran past the guard station.
Is there a guard station?
It's right across from the school.
Yeah,
if he got that as well, that would be something insane.
And the amount of shit that has happened around that guard station that they haven't been able to stop.
Yeah, the guard station's right in front of the school. And the school was set on fire. I don't think anyone from that guard station was there to deal with it.
And the local smoking area of the town for people in school is literally outside it.
Yeah, literally.
People under 18, they smoke cigarettes right in front of it.
There'd be fist fights outside the guard station.
The next thing, somebody has to go up on the roof and start drinking. Just what the fuck? We're just...
Oh man, fuck the roof. On the roof. Go in there.
You could probably get to the roof of the guard station and just start drinking and just leaning off the side of it, like, and they probably wouldn't figure out for probably a week.
I mean, I gotta come to Ireland anyway. So when this is all over and I can leave this country, I'll feel like I'm sorry. I'm an American. I didn't know I couldn't do that. Oh, I'm sorry.
Like, oh yeah, we do that all the time here, and we do that all the time back home.
Yeah, clearly.
You guys aren't allowed to shoot people here? What?
Oh my God! I'll tell you what. I got mugged when I went to London. I got mugged maybe half a kilometer away from Millwall Stadium. Well, the guy was trying to mug me, and I was like, "Do you have a gun?" And he just looked at me and went, "What?" I was like, "Do you have a gun?" He's like, "No." I was like, "Oh, fuck off. Muggers have guns in my country. I'm not afraid of you. Like, what do you have, a knife?" It's like, so what? Like that, dude. I've been going to New York City since the '80s. Like, our muggers have guns. Come on.
Yeah, that shit's fucking crazy. Like, if you get mugged here, like, either they have a knife or they're just pretending they have a knife.
It helped in this instance. This guy was obviously strung out on heroin, and I think I could have sneezed on him and knocked him over. Like, that helped. But it was just funny, like, the look on his face when I was like, "Do you have a gun?" Like, he was like really shocked.
The thing, no, who did I hear? Wasn't it Paul Roseberry who said if you're ever gonna get into a fight, you don't have to act like you're tough, you just have to act like you're batshit insane.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, let me tell you, man.
Like, you know, take off the shirt. He says, like, don't stop there. Take off the pants. Take off the boxers.
No, I was there. No, I swear to God, I was reading a thing the other day where this lad, like, when he was in college, he used to go around into bars and, like, talk to people's girlfriends, right? And one of the nights it went south because, like, they went outside and, like, who was it? No, I think it was, what the fuck was it? I think it was a UFC fighter, actually. I think it might have been, or either that or it was Bill Burr. Okay. I was reading something anyway, and it was like
Mayor of Boston, Bill Burr.
Yeah, he literally, I swear to God, whoever it was, he just like, the guy came out, he's like, "Oh yeah," he was just like, "Oh, you're talking to my girl." He like the fucking guy who was like, the guy who he came up to took off his shirt and he's like, "Oh, what are you, tough guy, huh? Tough guy?" And he took off his pants and he was like, "Yo, what the fuck are you doing?" And then took off the boxers as well. And there's a gang of 9 people, and he was just like, "Yo, come on." He's like, "All right, if you want to go, I'll go. But they're not going to remember if you kick my ass. They're going to remember you as the guy who had all of this, all of here."
I mean, that is basically what, that's like when I was growing up, New York City it's not dangerous now, but it was in like the 80s and the 90s, like the crack epidemic and the mafia and all stuff like that. But all of that, I mean, New York City is incredibly safe now. Like it's night and day. But when I was a teenager, it was still pretty dangerous. And that was pretty much like what you did. Like that's what older people would tell you. Like if somebody tries to fuck with you, just act insane. Like just act like you're completely out of your mind, and and they'll leave you alone.
People like they'd want to see how tough you are, but no one wants to see how fucking insane you are. No one wants to see that.
No one wants to see that. No one wants to see that. Like
someone could go fucking nuts. Like
I had a friend named Mike Malloy, and his whole shtick when somebody would try to do that is he would try to bite them in the arm. He would like grab them and try to bite them, and they would go, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" And they would like run off. Like that was it. Like nobody wanted to. And then he had like a reputation after he did that like 1 or 2 times. He had this reputation of being crazy, and like no one was through it. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Like, oh, you know Malloy. Like he's fucking crazy. Like no one would go near him. And he wasn't big. Like we were skinny, like punk kids from the suburbs. Like, but big guys would, he would mouth off to people. And somebody would go to like start a fight with him, and someone else would step in and go, "Oh no, this guy's crazy. No, he's insane. Don't do that." Like it works. It works.
I'm sure it does.
That's a good way to avoid. Yeah, nobody wants. No, you know what? Nobody has time for that. Like it's like, all right, never mind. Like never mind. I don't want.
People have time to figure out how tough you are, but no one has time to figure out how crazy you are.
How insane you are. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I guess the best thing to do would be like, if you were in a bar, like piss your pants or something, like just immediately, like just really go out there, like just really just go full on, like fucking loony.
No, stop. Okay, no, if you're gonna get in a fight, don't piss your pants. You're gonna be fucked.
if I had a,
then you're gonna be known as the guy who got bed up and then pissed his pants.
just fucking drop your pants, whip it out, just start peeing on the floor. Like
start
just really go all out.
It's not that. Maybe that'll get someone's attention, but otherwise, no.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, man, I want to thank you for coming on.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
The chats we've had are insane.
You've been a really cool guest.
Yes, and again, sorry about the technical difficulties.
Hey, listen, I call it the glitch monster on my show. At least once a month, I'm visited by the glitch monster. Oof. It happens.
It happens to us probably once a week. Like it's.
Or most episodes.
You just have to feed the hamster that's running the wheel that powers your town. You just have to go down there and just feed him some more. That's what you got to do. You need some tato.
We don't support ESP here, but no, listen. No, all right, man. Yeah, so thank you so much.
It has been a pleasure.
No. Thank you guys. Thank you guys
so much.
I'd love to come on again in the future. You guys are the best, man. You guys are awesome.
If people want to check you out and want to follow you, where can they find you?
Oh, yes. So I'm on Twitter. It's at Bereft of the Dial, BEREFT, the Dial. And then mixcloud.com / Friday Night Music Party. And then the actual show is hosted at jimmystagger.caster.fm. So those were all the... I'm out there.
Right. Well, we will link
you know what,
every single one of those down there.
So, thanks everyone for listening. Hope everyone has a great day.
Yeah.
You should like, subscribe, tell your grandma about the podcast, and
stay safe.
Have a great day.
Good luck.
Thank you, guys.
You're recording the call, man, are you?
I gotta end this.